and to this edition, which sees the completion of the work to install a new church building up at Grey Havens. The next clip you're going to see was intended to be in the last edition, but there was so much material that I took it out. So when I talk about waiting till next week to see what it looks like on the layout, you'll have to ignore that bit. But let's get straight into the next section when you see what the church looked like once I'd finished doing all the work on it. Well, here is the completed church, which I'm pleased with, very pleased with. I'm surprised myself a bit. I have to say I really like the Petite Properties models. They're just superb. And if they did more of the sort of full 3D ones, there would be more appearing on the layout. You'll see the roofs are now on. I did work a little bit more after the last video with some of the stippling and paint, just to keep working at it until I got it to a way which I liked. And I'm pleased to say my cunning plan for the clock faces have come off. You'll recall that the original idea is that there is a printed clock face in the instructions, which I have here somewhere, which the suggestion is, there we go. So there's a printed clock face, there you can see in the instructions, and the little ring that you see on the clock face is stuck over the top of that, left to dry, cut round it, stick it on. My experience of trying to cut circles in paper with a knife, it never really looks very good. And so the thought that I had, which has worked, I'll just bring this closer in so you can see the clock face if I get it to focus, was to paint the inner ring black and then using a little bit of copper wire, bend it to give me the 3 o'clock, and then in the wet paint I put the wire into the wet paint, so I didn't need a blob of glue, which might also then obscure the clock face. And you'll see that indeed it is reading 3 o'clock, if I get this into shot, in each of the clock faces. And yes, before you ask, cutting the copper to be that length and size with the hole in it was the devil's own job. But the end result is superb. It really catches the light well. So what I'll be able to do now, there are 3 holes underneath. This one goes up into the tower. And I think, in fact, the louvers in the windows here hadn't cut all the way through. That's not surprising. This is very small and they would have been fine slits. If I'd have thought about it more, I might have gone in and made sure that each of the slits were clear. So there's no point putting a light in the tower. But if you buy this kit, one of the things you might want to do is just see whether you can get the light so it shines out through the louvers. That will be great for lighting the chancellery and the nave, with some light feeding into the aisles. I think what we might do is give it a bit of a test with a light inside. I did in the end go for the more generic stained glass, because the other ones were too weedy. When I put them in, they just didn't look right. They just looked fairly anemic. Which is obviously not what I'm trying to do. If we pop a light inside now, whoops, there we go. You can already see how much more effective that is. The lights at the top are clear. I don't know whether you can, oh yes, well, you can, trouble is you can see the light too brightly. If I put it in the chancellery, that probably will look better. Bring it into the focus, and maybe turn the top light off a bit, give you a bit more look. And then put you in focus there. There you can see the light, which is so much better. I think that's going to look pretty good. I'll put that back on there for the moment. There we go. Put that back in focus. So that is the completion for this episode of the building of the replacement church for St Eldar. Next episode, I will remove the old Metcalfe church and we will put this on the layout and see what we need to do to adjust the setting of it in the churchyard and then get this fitted and working. Hello and welcome to this episode of 2 to Watch, where I showcase 2 other Engage channels that I follow. Both of the channels today are ones that I've come across only very recently, and indeed neither of them has been producing videos for very long. The first channel is Liam's Engage. This is the first channel I've featured which is by a young modeller. I think he's probably still at school, judging by other videos he's posted, and as a consequence, and quite sensibly, comments for his layout are turned off. So supporting him in his modelling will have to be by subscribing to his channel, which I hope you will do. The channel is very new to me. I came across it only a couple of months ago, just before I started doing the 2 to Watch series. The channel records the work he's done over the last year or so on the layout to build Camberwell Station and its depot, and create the town scene in which the station and the depot are set. Over the most recent videos, he's been working to install overhead electric line equipment to his layout. It looks to have been a concerted piece of work to fit all the gantries around the layout. The traction is very much contemporary stock, and I'm enjoying watching the development of the layout. I look forward to seeing the completion of the electrification programme. It is also, of course, good to see younger modellers active in the hobby and ready to tackle creating a layout. It would be good if we could all provide support to him by subscribing. The second channel today is also a very new channel, Geoff, Hammond, Flint Hills. The first video only went up in July, and to quote from Geoff's own description of his layout, Flint Hills is an N-gauge test layout to test the latest DCC technology and hone my modelling skills before building a much larger layout. It has a 5-platform central station terminal and a side TMD, 2 loops and a reverse loop using DigiKey's DR5000 DCC command station, track feedback and block detection, with DigiKey's Loco Railcom feed and with DigiKey's automation with iTrain. I've enjoyed watching the videos so far, which has taken us through the process of designing his layout and the build of it, including working with inclines to get them so that his stock can go up and down easily, and of course the automated train control system. The track plan for this test layout is really very interesting, particularly with the return loop, and I'm learning a great deal about automation and computer control running from watching the work that Geoff has been doing. We must all hope that he soon secures space into which he can put his permanent layout. So that's it for this edition of 2 to Watch. It's a shorter than usual episode because the randomometer has paired 2 very new channels. I am, however, enjoying following both and hope you will go along and subscribe as well. As usual, I will put links to both channels in the description below. Well, here we are. The day of removal of this church and its replacement with the Petite Properties Church is upon us. I'm going to film this on a different camera and then show you the sequence of its removal and the work that's done on the top. It's likely at some point that this whole section, those of you who may not know, this whole section here is removable. And when I do the wiring, I will need to take it off, and I may try and show you that, but it's quite a fine job balancing this to work underneath it. So without also trying to film it at the same time might be asking for trouble, because everything is, these are all these trees here are really quite delicate and they snap quite easily if you're not careful. And as I've already discovered, that fencing, you almost need to look at it and it decides to break. So I've got to do this with some care. The first thing I'm going to probably do is remove the bushes that are around the edge so that I can get to this, which is stuck down with PVA, and I'm hoping I can just insert a blade underneath and that lift the church off whole without actually damaging the church and having to break the church up, which I don't really want to do if I can help it. Not that I know what on earth I'm going to do with it otherwise. The general footprint of the new church, if I bring it into place, you'll see that it's very similar. There's really not much in it, so it's possible I won't have too much scenic work to do to rebed this in place from the one that was there before. So what I'll do now is I'll stop with this camera, get the other one running, and then we'll start work in removing this church. Well, here you see the church on the layout now. This morning I did some more work I'll talk about in just a moment ago, but I thought I'd let you see it with the lights gleaming. When I first saw this, I did worry that I had light bleed. You'll see some light here, and there's some light here, until I realised that that isn't light shining from the inside out. It is the reflection of the light shining out from the windows. So I'm really, really pleased with this. I'll put some light on so you can see it a bit better. And there is the church in its glory, sat in its churchyard. At this point, I'll take some footage that I took using the gimbal, just to give you a proper view all the way around. I'm really, really pleased with this kit. The kit goes together very easily. The instructions for painting it were excellent. I like the shape of the church. It sits in really well and just looks as though it's always been there. So the new church of St Eldar is now safely installed on the layout. When I looked at this morning, and you may see that better in the images where I've just shown of me going round the side of the church, there were some places along this edge and around this corner and around here where it didn't look as though the church sat down into the land. There seemed to be an edge. So this morning I put a bit of more glue of the Pico static grass glue, and using the puffer bottle, which you saw, the little yellow puffer bottle, I just applied a little bit more static grass just where I needed it. That puffer bottle is an amazing little thing. It costs, it's obviously, it's a knock product, I think, initially, but it's marketed by Gagemaster. I've got, mine is a Hornby one. I've seen other names printed on the little puffer bottle. It costs about £5 or £6, which is considerably cheaper than the micro applicators, one of which I saw at over 100 quid. Does a fantastic job. If you haven't got one of those, do, particularly if you've only got a small space to do static grass on, because I've used it also up at the War Memorial when I built the War Memorial and had trouble trying to get grass in that using the big applicator. And it really does enable you to target static grass just where you need it to be. So that completes the build of this church and the replacement of St Eldar, and that completes that crash, in case you're wondering, is the binman taking away the recycled glass. So that completes this section, and I'll come back to show you some new lights on the layout. In the last video, I promised to do a layout tour of Elvenhome, particularly for new subscribers who won't have seen the whole of the layout. I'm going to add some more playlists to the channel, bringing together past videos in which I recorded the work to build specific buildings or to do some specific scenic work. 2 playlists already exist that cover the work up at Greyhavens, which you see before you. The Church of St Eldar sits in its churchyard, opposite which is the vicarage. This is the first complete scratch-built building that I made. The vicarage has an extensive garden at the rear. The garden of the vicarage is separated by a strong hedge from the buildings behind, with a door in the hedge to allow the gardener, who lives in one of the 2 cottages at the back, to tend to the garden. The sexton lives next door to the gardener, and between them they tend to the church and its churchyard. I had great fun designing and building this part of the layout, which was not in the original plan for Elvenhome. Just to the left of the cottages is the station of Greyhavens. The station entrance, the stairway down to the platform, and the building on the platform were all scratch built because I couldn't find anything that I really liked. The platform itself is a Metcalfe platform with scale model scenery, fencing and running inboards, and the lights I think are from Layouts for You. Coming down to the front of the layout, we have the Motive Power Depot in the town of Weathertop. The engine sheds are red brick simply because at the time that I built this part of the layout, Metcalfe did not make a grey brick kit. Red brick has therefore become the dominant colour of the MPD, being used on the incline and of course for the coaling stage. The coaling stage is a kit from a company that is no longer trading. It's a GWR design based on the one at Didcot Railway Centre. Coming back to the dwellings for the people of Weathertop, there are 2 terraces of back-to-back houses. The nearest terrace is Bagshot Terrace and the furthest Longbottom Terrace. If you hadn't already picked this up, all but one of the names of things on this layout are taken from the works by J.R.R. Tolkien. At the end of Bagshot Terrace is a square with a small playground before we get to the main station of Weathertop. I'll just move up so we can get a better look at the buildings at this end of the layout. The main station is actually 2 Metcalfe kits, neither of which now exist because they've both been upgraded. The main station kit is the central building, and the other kit was of a parcels office and a waiting room kit, which form the 2 wings. Both of these kits, as I say, have been updated since I built this kit. The station has 3 platforms. Platform 1 is the bay platform for the branch. Passengers are expected to move to the island platform via a subway at the left end of the platform. Parcels, newspapers and other goods go via a subway at the right end of the platform, which emerges from another subway in the middle of the island platform. Very occasionally the station master takes pity on the infirm or those with children and allows them to use this subway. The island platform is covered for most of its length by a 24-bay canopy built from 6 kits by Metcalfe. I couldn't, however, find any building to put within the legs of the canopies, so I built my own. I'll put some images in here just to give you a closer look at the station and the underpass. In front of the station there is a market on the left-hand side and an area on the right for the delivery of goods and parcels. The square in front of the entrance is used mainly by public transport, private car ownership being rare at the time in which this layout is set, which is towards the very end of the 1940s and the beginning of the 1950s. To the left of the station sits the Rivendell Hotel, which was scratch built and in an Art Deco style. It's based very loosely on the Midland Hotel that is in Morecambe. Behind the hotel sits a fire station, also in the Art Deco style, which is based on one in Acton. I used to live in Ealing and Acton Fire Station wasn't very far away. Both buildings are Art Deco because the original hotel burnt down. One of the reasons it was burned to the ground was that the fire station at the time had too few appliances and was based too far away. The directors of the London and North Eastern Railway paid for a new hotel and helped the council to build a new fire station of sufficient size and close proximity to help the station buildings in the event of a further fire. Turning to the War Memorial, this is the building I rather cryptically mentioned earlier. I have finally been able to get some lights to highlight the memorial, as you will see from this image. I built the War Memorial in 2018 so that it would be ready in time for the 100th anniversary of the armistice in 1918. I had struggled to find lights that would do what I wanted. I very recently came across some spotlights from the Woodland Scenic Just Plug system. I've hidden them in bushes and they do a fantastic job of lighting up the War Memorial and reflecting off the copper and gold paint I put inside the cenotaph. The cenotaph is based on one in Leicester, very loosely. I had great fun working out how to build this thing, and then building the plinth and the square on which it sits, and doing the scenic work around the War Memorial. Coming to the left of the War Memorial is the school and chapel. This is a joint Methodist and Church of England school, but the chapel is a Church of England chapel. For that reason, just outside the gate, you will see a Little End Methodist chapel. Next to it is the Little End police station. Finally, the town hall is a Fowler kit. You will also see the road leading down to the viaduct. The road will pass out eventually through a tunnel below where High Elven sits, with another road running along to pass under the Bowstring Bridge. Between the right of the ramp and the embankment, there will be a scrapyard extending under the viaduct. Turning to High Elven, which you've seen quite a bit lately, this is the branch terminus. It comprises a single platform train shed and a goods yard. A shunting engine is permanently stabled at High Elven. Leaving the station, the line crosses the bridge to pass through Sharkey's End station, which is a request stop. The station building is based on many I've seen via Google, used by the London and North Eastern Railway in country stations and at halts. Shortly after the station, the line is doubled to provide a passing loop. The loop ends just before Grey Havens. The points that control this loop have surface-mounted point motors because this loop was installed long after I had built the original single line, and fitting under point motors would have required too much destruction. The layout is therefore a combination of a tail chaser and end-to-end. The branch starts at the bay platform at Weathertop, winding its way around and up to High Elven. You'll see there's plenty of scenic work still to be done on this layout, which will be the things I should be concentrating on in future videos. Well, I hope you enjoyed that edition of Elvenhome. I had great fun doing all the stuff that you saw in this edition. And I hope you go and have a good look at the two channels that are in Two to Watch, both of whom are new and setting out and would do, I'm sure, with more subscribers. Next edition, I hope to be able to reveal the layout of the village of High Elven. I sketched it out about a week ago, and the sketch pad has been sitting around and I haven't fiddled with it. So I suspect it's getting close to being the final version. And once that's done, then I can start the scenic work up at High Elven to complete that village, including, I think, scratch building the buildings. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, well, please do subscribe and hit the bell notification and select all so that you'll know when I'm uploading new videos. And of course, if you've got any comments, please do let me have your comments. Your comments really are invaluable, and quite a lot of good stuff came back in relation to High Elven and what might be there and what it might look like. And I'll talk about more of that, as I say, I hope in the next edition, assuming that I have finally settled on what the plan for High Elven will look like. But until I speak to you again in about 2 weeks' time, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.